All right. We'll just wing it.
Okay.
Okay.
We're going to wing it.
Wing it with just the two of us.
Happens.
It's the first time ever, right?
Well, you and Caleb did it once.
Yeah, but you and me.
Yeah. It's like old times.
All right. Don't say that too loud. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Iconic Talk, Winchester's number fun podcast where community, conversation, and the occasional clowning take center stage. And it's once again awesome to be here with you all in the Icon Media studios to share our local knowledge and sometimes our questions with our amazing listening audience.
And that face you see and voice you hear is Mark Francis. At some point, we will not have our scripts.
Yeah.
I'm committed to memorizing my line. I mean,
memorize. This is the day.
We've got to memorize our lines. Anyway, realtor, entrepreneur, local, just friend of Winchester in general. And how are you?
I'm good. That is the voice you hear is Rachel Racy, as we all know, affectionately love her. Spotlight. This is the episode for you. I'm excited to dig into who we were able to chat with.
Yeah,
but
super fun.
Just to start the elephant in the room, just two of us here.
Yeah.
There's no third chair.
There's no third chair.
You know, you're sitting technically in kind of the third chair.
Yeah.
How does it feel over there?
I don't know. Now I feel like I'm doing a better job at third. I mean, I feel like we should just eliminate Caleb altogether.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. The call is out. Put your votes in right here and now.
100% kidding.
Cast your votes.
It feels a little hollow, actually. It feels like it feels a little hollow.
It is a little.
He does add a lot of humor to this. It makes it really.
We appreciate the third chair.
Well, we're missing your third chair.
Caleb, you're tied up with your full-time job, and that's perfectly acceptable.
Full-time job.
We'll get you next episode. But in the meantime, let's just kind of dive in. What was the unfiltered update? Here's our first segment, unfiltered update. What is new in the Rachel Racy world?
Gabe's got his final exam tomorrow for kitchen chemistry. We actually had his party on Sunday because that was the only time we really had available to do it. He actually leaves in a week and a half for Panama. He's spending a month there with his grandparents. So June was kind of like a crunch month. And he was super excited. Got lots of nice gifts from people. I think he was pretty caught off guard.
Really?
Like, yeah, he,
didn't expect anything.
No, I mean, he got, we had the party. He's like, Mom, you don't open these at the party. I'm like, no, you wait and do that later. He actually had to go to work. He had to leave the party early to go to work. Came back home at 9 and sat and opened up all of his cards. And he's like, whoa. I'm like, yeah.
Nice.
Who gets the credit for throwing you this kick-ass party so that people bring you
money?
Open
a bank account now,
and
buddy,
he was
right?
like, thank you so much. I'm like, you're welcome.
It is funny because the kids like that, they don't understand, but it's
the only time in your life people give you money when you graduate.
A lot of people want to just honor and recognize the work that goes into it.
And people are typically very generous when it comes to new like high school graduates. So he's really enjoying. He just texted me just now. He went to the record store today and spent $100 on like 5 new records. So
without revealing what people gave, but like what's the standard etiquette for that? Like if you have a friend, like if you and I, we have kids in this age now,
like what's
and
the price
parents.
Point?
Yeah, like you got to give a kid a gift. I mean, are you at 25, 50, 100?
I mean, he had somebody gave him $150. He got like multiple $50 gifts, multiple $100 gifts. And it was funny because I had told him like all the checks go in your savings, cash you can keep. Well, he ended up getting so much cash. I'm like, no, this is not going to, no.
We're not going to the club.
You're not walking around with $900 in your wallet today.
Exactly.
So anyway, he's saving a bunch of it and he's spending some and he's going to take some with him to Panama to go there.
Nice.
Not that he'll need a lot, but yeah.
Well, you say that because I should know better because my second kid, Pierce, when he got a bunch of money, he just squirreled it away. He rat-holed it away in his top drawer. We're going through things one Christmas break, and there's literally stacks of 20s in there. We're like, Pierce, what are you doing with this random cash in your junk drawer filled with like, I don't know, little motorcycle.
It's like you survived the Great Depression.
Robots and video game supplies and stuff. I mean, just who knows what he had in there.
That is so great.
Yeah. So we're like, take this to the bank.
Yes.
Buddy.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Saving it for a rainy day or something. So. I don't know. I mean, my end, I did get out of town, and it was not specifically on Father's Day, but when it was Mother's Day, I went down to Williamsburg, saw my mom for a couple days beforehand Mother's Day. And just, it was kind of a happenstance thing. Went down to Williamsburg, spent the night with my parents. Wasn't quite for Father's Day, but at least saw my dad and
Yeah,
bought him some
yeah.
Pierce's Pit. Shout out to the restaurant down there, Pierce's Pit. That's amazing if you haven't been to Williamsburg.
Okay.
But my nephew was playing in the high school state tennis tournament, and they're in class 5. Around here, the local high schools are class 4. So they live in Midlothian. So it was like one up from there. And they made it to the finals. And the finals were in Newport News. So I went down there with Pierce to go see it. Erica was super bummed. She had like a day stock full of appointments, so she couldn't break away. So the whole time I'm texting her, she's like, "What's the score?" I'm like, "Okay, it's 3-0."
So cool.
And then what's the score? It's 4-1. You know, just going back and forth.
Yeah.
And he won his match, and their team won their match.
Very cool.
And they were super pumped, and it was just kind of fun to be there. So that was my last week, just one day excursion to get down there and see him his senior year win states for tennis.
That is awesome.
It's a big deal.
Yeah,
you know?
very big deal.
So, and afterwards, like their athletic director was there and gave them all a little speech. He's like, "Kids, you'll never forget this moment in your life right here and now. You know, let it soak in." But of course, the kids are like, "Whatever. We just want to go jump in the James River," because they were like playing right next to them. They didn't care about the adult, version of what they're experiencing now.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So that's my brief little update.
Yeah.
What's the local lowdown? What's happening around town? What's the vibe on the street as you are downtown at the restaurants and hearing?
I think what's the next festival? I honestly couldn't tell you. We just had Hot Blossom.
It's funny, 4th of July is coming up.
Oh yes, so I guess maybe that might be the next one. Independence Eve. They do a huge. There's stuff all over the place downtown, fireworks, and it's a big, big, big thing on the 3rd.
Yeah, we'll hype that up next episode because that'll be leading into that.
But I don't know what's between now and then.
Yeah, there's still a lot of just construction downtown and around town happening. New homes are blowing up. You've got the average price per house is still like right now for this year, starting January, the average sold price is like $469.
Good golly.
It's insane.
Good
so,
golly.
There's just a lot of the activity. People are still buying and selling in my world as far as the real estate goes. It's never been a better time to live in Winchester.
The house right behind me is actually, they just had been a rental for one family for 45 years. And, they are in the process of gutting it, and they're getting ready to put it on the market. The one right behind me that faces National. Big, beautiful red brick Foursquare.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how much that goes for and what it does for property values just in my little neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, every neighborhood, I feel like that's close to downtown is a hot commodity.
Yep.
It's all hot commodity. I've had, this is insane. I picked up a new client who they're in the $1 million price range, and they went shopping a weekend with me, and they pinned down a house that they wanted that was listed for $975. And I told them, I was like, I feel like in my gut, it's a little overpriced for what it is. Multiple offers came in that first weekend. They offered over asking price, and they lost out. And in my mind, as a realtor, I'm thinking to myself, wow, okay, I need to reevaluate the current season of this. I mean,
it's constantly changing.
I remember there hadn't been $1 million closing in Winchester back when I first started out in real estate.
And now they're a dime a dozen.
Now it's happening.
Yep.
About ready to
it's nuts.
Yeah. About ready to field an offer for a house that is $875 here locally, and somebody from Northern Virginia is going to sell theirs for 1.2, and the agent's like, "Oh, we'll sell it, piece of cake," just like that.
Yep.
No big deal.
Crazy.
Yeah. So that's the vibe around town right now, is that prices are strong and steady and rising.
A lot of vacationers are coming in. I'm noticing that like more people at the restaurant are from out of town. Actually just waited on a family this week. She was here for a job interview at SU.
Yeah.
And they had traveled from, I think, either Indiana or Illinois. I can't remember now what they told me, but he works remote, and she was interviewing for a job, and I got a chance to kind of tell them about the local scoop. They wanted to know what they could do. They were here for a few days, and they were staying at the George.
That's what they do. SU puts them up there, and for a lot of those people, I'll give them tours around town and stuff. So that's cool. I just helped the new conservatory dean move into her new place here in town. Going to actually go. She invited me and a couple other friends out just for a fun little I don't know, happy hour kind of thing.
Cool.
Just to thank. I mean, it's funny how people like to thank their realtors besides the commission that we make, but I love it. I'm like,
well, you're providing a really valuable service.
it shows that like, A, I'm doing a good job that they're doing that, and then B, that they value and like what I'm doing as well. And so shout out to Danielle, who was also part of our Icon team, to help with that process as well. But tangent talk. So just on that side note, Shenandoah is a big player in town. Obviously, you're talking about how they're bringing people in.
Yep.
They put on amazing shows during the course of the school year, and then they have an amazing Shenandoah Summer Music Theater, who we're about ready to get to some guests for that. Here's my question for you, Rachel. You're a theater spotlight person. What's your most memorable role that you have played on stage?
Oh, well, we talked about this a little bit when I did my episode with you.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite role of all time was Lucy. And
Lucy,
You're a Good
I
Man,
remember we
Charlie.
talked about that. Yeah,
that was at Wayside Theater. But we were joking.
Our guests
are on staff for Shenandoah Summer Music Theater people, and they have Singing in the Rain is coming this year. Little Women, and what was the third one?
I blanked on the other one. We'll look it up. They'll tell us what it is, right?
But I was telling them I actually played Joe in Little Women when I was in high school, and
$1 Million Quartet.
Okay, that's the Elvis.
Yes. Continue.
Anyway, I played Joe in Little Women when I think I was probably 15. And it was a local homeschool co-op that did a summer theater program. And that happened to be the show we did that year. We performed it on the stage in the basement at Hanley Library.
Really?
Tiny little stage.
That's very tiny then. Yeah.
Tiny. And we made it work. We actually did Anne of Green Gables in that space as well one summer. I played Marilla in Anne of Green Gables. But I remember this one specific scene in Little Women. Joe is such a tomboy, and they're wearing these skirts. It's these big, huge skirts and long dresses. And I'm exiting the stage, and my skirt gets stuck on the fence, like the outdoor fence part of the set. And I totally broke character, and I wish I hadn't, because it would have been so like Joe to go, stupid skirt, and here I was panicked that I couldn't get off the stage in time. And anyway, that's I still relive that moment more often than is probably healthy.
So it's
to
memorable.
Try to go back and redo that moment and get back in character and fix it. And I can't. I never will be able to.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. Special acting is never my thing. I never was on stage to act. My sister was, though. And so growing up, we had to watch every musical known to man during the summer. I mean, I think of the summer right now, and if I was like a 10-year-old boy, I would just want to go outside, even in the hot, humid summers, and just shoot basketball, throw a baseball against, one of those spring back things. Then I would come inside and I would just want to watch whatever I wanted. My sister had every musical on. We would go through cycles. Sound of Music, Singing in the Rain, Oklahoma, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. I hated that one. That was the worst. So they're just ingrained in my head, And
were you a Phantom fan? Did you ever like
Phantom of the Opera? The other big one was my parents loved Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
So they took us to Broadway as kids growing up. We went on a family vacation, and of course, Caleb will mock me for this, but in Europe, and saw Phantom of the Opera in London as well.
Good thing he's not here.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm saying all this now. So Phantom was big, and my sister also would play piano. So every time I'd come inside, she's on the piano, and just my mom would then try to sing, and she couldn't sing, and it was a whole.
That's one I still want to take Gabe to go see is Phantom for sure, because he loves it too. So
theater runs in my veins, not being on stage, but just by osmosis.
Yes,
and then obviously my son Tyson grew up and enjoyed theater, and engaged in Shenandoah Summer Music Theater 3 different times on stage. I want to say twice in the pit. And I want to say maybe even twice behind the scenes. So he's had his hand in the mix of being on stage in the pit playing music and oboe and stuff, and then helping behind the scenes. And little teaser, I did ask our guests this question: what's their most exciting and what are they passionate about of all the different activities you can have in theater? And I've asked Tyson that, and he's like, I can't answer that. I like them all.
Yeah.
But he likes to be, I think, behind the scenes now and controlling and stage managing, and he's definitely less spotlight than he was. And so it's fascinating to see the development of somebody like him in the theater world.
Yes.
Growing up
Yes.
to desire and perform the spotlight, but then be like, nope, I want to be more behind the scenes. So secretly, I think that he might take over Liz Albert's job when she decides to retire. We won't tell her that, but if she's watching now, you can be on the lookout for
So he's coming
Tyson
for you.
Francis. Yes, yes.
He's coming for you.
He claims he'd never circle back to Winchester. He's finally moved to New York.
Everybody says that.
Finally moved to New York, and he's happy. But then our guest is Elizabeth Albert from Shenandoah Music Theater, and also Jeremy Blaustein, and they get a chance to share their story. Sorry, Blaustein. I said,
Blaustein.
Sorry, don't just correct me. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I've got you. But yeah, you get a chance to hear their story and version of what they're doing currently here this summer of SSMT. So get ready for a Gab with the Guest, sponsored by Icon Media. Rachel, you enjoyed it. I'm glad that we were able to talk to them.
Me too.
So here we go. Here's our chat with Elizabeth and Jeremy. Well, we're here with Jeremy and Liz now. How are you guys?
Hi, guys.
Doing excellent.
Put you in the center seat,
Yeah.
center stage.
Okay.
Here we are.
And you picked up the blue, like you walked in and you're like, you matched the light.
Oh, I do, don't I?
Yes,
In my
excellent.
SSMT
Jeremy
sweatshirt.
understood the assignment, even though he didn't have one.
That's okay. That's good. Well, Liz, you've been on our podcast.
Yes, I've had the pleasure.
Like a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
A lot of things have changed since then, but I
Yes.
still want to get a rundown of who you are, where you've been.
Sure.
Jeremy, you too. So give us a
Okay.
quick little history. And I'll come to you,
Okay.
Liz, first.
Yeah, my name is Elizabeth Albert. I'm the managing director for Shenandoah Summer Music Theater. I was born and raised in Winchester. I spent
Townie.
a townie.
Yeah.
Yes, I went to Shenandoah Conservatory, so I have a degree in musical theater and voice performance. And then I spent about the next 15 years kind of doing regional theater. I lived in Chicago, Illinois for a long time. I did a bunch of stuff here and there. I came back to the East Coast in 2013, and this job became open in 2014. So here I am.
You say
timing.
this job, so
Yes,
define
managing
that.
director of SSMT. And that's about half, 60% of my job. I also have worked as the operations manager for the theater division at Shenandoah Conservatory. I'm now the director of patron services and engagement at the conservatory.
Cool.
So what does that mean? We don't know. That doesn't matter.
We'll take an entire episode to unpack that, right?
Lots of hats.
Yes,
It
lots
sounds
of
like
hats.
lots of
It
hats.
sounds like if things need doing, we're going to do them, which is
Yeah.
the theater way.
Yep. So, Jeremy, how do you relate to that story?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the producing artistic director of Shenandoah University, so mainly in charge of artistic production and budgetary oversight. I've been in the position for 5 or 6 years, 5 years, 6
Well,
years
is it
now.
COVID or pre-COVID?
It was pre.
Okay.
So, but do we count the year that we did not exist because of
No.
COVID? I'm not
No.
sure.
That would have been his first produced
That
summer.
would have, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
But my actual first summer with SSMT was back in 2004. I met Liz that summer, so
Yep.
we've been friends all that time.
Yep.
I started out as an ensemble member. From there, after I graduated school, I went to New York. I went into management. I went into producing. I worked on Broadway. I produced 17 shows under a specific firm on Broadway, and then realized that I wanted to get back to creative work. Producing isn't always creative work. It is, but not in the same capacity as a staging rehearsal or
Sure.
directing
Sure.
a show.
Mhm.
So on that journey back towards creative work, I was reintroduced to SSMT and have been back in its orbit for about 10 years now. I think I've directed 6 or 7 or 8 maybe now shows at SSMT. And this summer I'm directing Singin' in the Rain.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I'm excited
Very
to see
cool.
it, obviously. We'll get to the details
Sure.
of that first, but I'm just curious to continue to get to know you guys. So of the many hats that you wear, of the many roles that you've done in theater over the years, what's the most exciting thing to do in your mind? Is it on stage? Is it behind the stage? Is it, where do you like to be? Like, if you had your passion and one choice, where would you go?
That's a toughie. I mean, we both are performers and enjoy that, but we also, once you have a management eye and you see big picture, it's very hard to then just step into one part of the
Yeah.
puzzle. It's a delight to do every now and again because you get
Yes.
to maybe take those hats off for just
Sure.
a second. And Jeremy just came from a contract where he was doing some performing. But I I enjoy the management part of it. I like to see the big puzzle, like all, that big, like I'm going to put it all over the dining room table and there's lots of puzzle pieces.
Put it all together.
You're putting it all together. And for me, I'm much more people focused. So I love the people. I love the hiring. I love the staffing. I love getting to know people. I love getting to see young artists who maybe have their first, second, third contract with us. And then 2 years later, they're on Broadway or they're working, a national tour or something, and just thinking like we're a part of their story and part of their growth and their history. So I don't know. That's my favorite bit.
Yeah.
For me, I would say my favorite part is in directing. I really love making an audience laugh. I like working with actors and finding ways that I know the comedy is going to succeed. And there's nothing better as a director than sitting in the back of the house and hearing people laugh, especially at our theater where it's a multi-generational experience. So we're getting grandparents and children and their grandchildren all sitting in one row with each other, all laughing at a joke, especially when that joke is like 75, 80 years old, depending on how old the show is. And it still works if the timing is right and the performance is there, that it still gets that reaction. And to hear all 3 generations laughing at something simultaneously, it's just magical for me.
It's so interesting that you give that answer because it comes through. And I'll tell you, I mean, you do the introductions for most shows.
I do, yes.
And people at the end of the shows come back and they give me feedback. That guy who does the intros is so funny and so amazing. I'm coming just to watch him as well. So it gives
that must feel good.
It gives kind of just some fun energy to kick off any show. And you customize it.
I do.
Personalize
I also use that as a bit of a warm-up act to make sure the audience is loose and ready to roll with the comedy of the performance. So there's plenty of jokes in those speeches, yes.
Or if it's a mellow or dark kind of humor, you kind of go a little funny and sideways for whatever comments you make too. Very intentional and scripted. I appreciate that. Of course. And my son is going to be another usher again this year.
Yes.
So he will come home and tell me, Jeremy said your name again, Mark. And because, as the sponsor, I'll be able to just get the name out there. So appreciate all that. Yeah. Rachel, I got to ask you the same question. What's your most exciting place to be? On the stage, off the stage?
Oh gosh, on.
Yep. She's a performer at heart. So there you go.
Yeah, I never really did a whole lot with it post college, but yes, I love that's. I think that's one of the reasons why I love waiting tables so much.
Sure,
is because I'm a little bit the center of attention all the time.
It is. It's an act.
It is. It 100% is, and I get to kind of direct you read the table, you know what to say or what not to say, where to throw in a punchline, where to pull back, where to, that's something that, but definitely singing and being on stage.
Yeah.
There's something about that feeling of being alive that you just cannot get anywhere else. Live theater.
I get what you say though too, Liz, because once you're on the stage, you see that, but then when you are in charge of all the things behind the scenes, like it makes going to any other show a little more challenging because you're thinking about all the production and all the technical details that go into it. And you're like, oh, they didn't hit that cue, or oh, that light was a little bit off, or though the mute button was on the sound for that. You kind of have such a critical eye because I'm in that world too of producing and on stage at church. And there's so many things that go wrong. You're just like cringeworthy.
Yes.
It's tough to enjoy things. And so then part of me is like, I'd just rather be in the moment on stage.
Making it work.
And just, well, I'm also a control freak.
Yeah.
So,
aren't we?
That's part of it too.
That's why we're also in management. Yes.
I am sometimes the worst person to sit next to in the house because I'm not only watching what's happening on stage, I don't have the level of knowledge that Jeremy does of like where that joke is supposed to land or missing a technical cue or anything. But I'm watching the house. I'm watching the patrons. I'm watching that front of house staff. And if I see somebody like that has a need that isn't being met or someone stumbling in the dark or something, and I'm like, oh God, get up, help them, or whatever.
Sure.
I'm just the worst. But sometimes that comes in handy, when there is an emergency or something. I'm that person who forgets she's wearing 3-inch heels and is running down the stairs, to go like help with the situation. But I can't just sit and watch the show. There are other things going through my mind.
Sure.
Too.
I get it. It's a different world to be in, and not everybody thinks of it that way, because what you want is you want a seamless show
Right.
for any patron, any customer to show up, not see glitches, not see issues are happening, but just have a fun evening out or afternoon out for matinee. Yeah.
Although I think that sometimes the glitches and the things that weren't planned and
that's
everything.
What makes it, that's what makes it live theater.
Yeah. And
you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And I think our audiences actually remember some of those things more than they remember like a perfect show.
Right.
You know, they remember like, oh gosh, remember when that thing happened? Oh, I was there that day, you know, and they connect with it in a different way. But yeah, it's what makes live performance happen. Right?
Yep. Walk us through real quick what goes on behind the scenes to, I'll ask a two-part question here. Get the show here to town. How do you choose the shows? And then ultimately, I want you to explain the process of preparing for a show and getting it going one show into the next. I mean, I've seen some of the behind the scenes things with just it's insane.
Yes.
So
and
I want you to
piggyback on that because this process goes on throughout the entire school year leading up to the summer, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
okay.
it is a very long process to get to our 2 weeks of production. But to answer your first question, the selection of shows, we basically have a bit of a rubric that we like to make sure that we've checked off a couple of boxes. We really like to find something that's going to be family friendly, that's also going to be accessible for our relaxed performance, if you wanted to chat a bit about that. Aside from that, something that is golden age from the 1940s through the 1960s. Our audience tends to like those kind of shows. This year we've got Singin' in the Rain that answers that. Something that is slightly more contemporary that has a pop or a rock score. This year we're offering $1 Million Quartet at the end of the season with performances that capture a moment at Sun Records where Elvis and Johnny Cash and Jerry Lee Lewis and Carl Perkins actually did get together. It's based on a true story that has all of their music in the show as well. So it has a lot of tunes that people will recognize. And then something else that's going to typically for us, something that is based on literature. We like something that has that maybe you saw or read in English class kind of feel to it. Doubling with that, we've got Little Women this year in that slot.
But that's also a little bit of a family friendly or potentially, you know.
I don't think anything this year is family unfriendly.
Right.
And sometimes we have shows that are really geared towards children, but sometimes we have shows that are just family friendly. Like Singin' in the Rain is bright lights, bright costumes, fun movement, you know, catchy tunes and stuff. It's suitable for the whole family. Little Women, we're definitely going to see, like Jeremy was talking about, those generations. There are people that are, that book is like near and dear to so many people's hearts. And I think we're going to see generations of people coming to see that together. So yeah, we just kind of try and make sure that there are, and if we do something a little more contemporary or a little bit more adult, we make sure that there is something that is an offering for all generations to come to.
So you mentioned that the process is a little bit year round. That's finding the shows, hitting that rubric as you call it, and then finding some of the actors and the staff. That would be, I'm just guessing, is that part of the process as well? How do you round up?
Very much so. We start our process. I'll begin looking at shows and trying to finalize our selections for next season before this season is even over. And then it will take the rest of the year to get us to that point. Sometime around winter, we begin our creative staffing. That is hiring our directors, our designers, our choreographers, the people that are going to help bring the show to life. And then we go into casting, and that process lasts several months through the spring. For I would say about 50 actors that we hire in the course of the season. Nowadays, I can see upwards of 8,000 auditions to find those 40 to 45, 50
and
people.
And that's not just students at Shenandoah. That's anybody
it's very wide now.
And can anyone audition?
Absolutely, anyone can audition. Yes.
There you go. There you go.
Getting some ideas over here. Maybe we've got a collaboration in our future.
Real rusty.
So, and what also a lot of the general public here in Winchester might not know is that, you are hiring equity actors and filling certain roles, but then you're also finding students, you're finding local talent as well. So there's a mix a mixed bag. Is that
Yeah, there's so the theater was started with the idea to give Shenandoah students a professional experience before they left college. And in our day, that meant the entire company and all of the professors and everything, like everybody working at SSMT was affiliated with Shenandoah. And it was a great experience and we learned a ton and we made good friends that we are working with here 20 years later. But these days, to get a true professional experience, we want the Shenandoah students and others to have the experience of working with other people and working with people who might work differently from their professors or differently from their colleague students, you know. So we try and make sure that a certain percentage are Shenandoah students, but then we're looking for other people to fill in some of those, to fill in the rest of the company so that it is a true professional experience where they're expected to bring their A game and do their best and work hard and fulfill their contracts and everything. And the students have to win those contracts. So everybody is paid from, you know, the star of the show down to the high school apprentice who will be running the spotlight. So everybody's paid for their job.
And that's behind the scenes. It's also the orchestra and the pit. And it's people in the booth. It's, you name it. So I think, again, people might not understand the depth of all that goes in behind the scenes to pull off these shows.
This year we have a technical staff of about 47, and that is all of our carpenters, painters, costume artists, lighting technicians, props technicians, everybody. It's about 47 people who are creating what you see on stage and then running it backstage. We have how many casts this year, you think?
I would say it's somewhere around 50 again.
I think our orchestra, I know that Singing in the Rain has 22 people playing in the orchestra. Little Women is smaller. I think it is 11.
I need to go see Little Women.
Yeah. So, you know, we can hire anywhere from 120 to 150 people every summer.
Wow.
And the sets can be amazing. I mean, certain shows don't call for as much set design as certain ones do. And you guys have amazing carpenters and artists and set designers. It just goes to like the level of the quality that you guys put on. So I'm curious, what do you tell somebody who's never been to SSMT before and their experience is Broadway? They're like, why should I come to some little small Winchester podunk town kind of show? How do you explain to them what you provide and share with them the level of experience and the level of skill that they might only be expecting at Broadway? Like, how do you sell people on that?
We begin with the accessibility of our price point. Tickets start at $26 for youth tickets. So if you scale that compared to something like a trip to the Kennedy Center, which is $175 a person to get in the door with no youth pricing or senior pricing there, that it costs as much to bring a family of four to our theater as it does to take one person to the Kennedy Center. Regarding our quality, you mentioned the large orchestras. That is really a bonus, and it's something that most theaters are not performing with nowadays, even on Broadway. If Singin' in the Rain were to go back to Broadway right now, they would probably cut the orchestra in half. That you'd probably get a 12-piece orchestra. Everything in New York is getting a reduction because it's very expensive, especially with musicians. That is not something that we are willing to concede on because we are founded where we are on the grounds of a conservatory. Musical excellence is primary to us, so we will not edit down. I mean, what else would you like to say to add to that?
I feel like you know, our tagline in a lot of our advertising is Broadway in your own backyard. There are a lot of people, and we definitely agree on this, there are a lot of people who aren't going to ever see Broadway. And they're not going to see, you know, that show that was the best musical of this year or whatever. But they are going to see what's in their backyard. And it's our job to make that the best that it possibly can be, to make it accessible, to make it appropriate for this community, and to make it an educational experience for those participating in it. So we want our regional theater to be the best thing that you've ever seen, if you never get anywhere else, you know. So we're for Broadway in your backyard.
And I would also add to that, we've sort of touched on it, that a lot of our performers are young professionals. They're starting out on their journey. There is this really lovely idea of knowing that you got to see them when.
Yes.
We had somebody that was with us a few years ago that was in Jersey Boys and Hello Dolly. He just opened a number on the Tony Awards on CBS. So we can see our people go on to these magnificent things. They are all destined for greatness.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at casting. So I think they're all destined for greatness.
Yeah.
The shows that come here on a regular basis are certainly fun. Like, again, I like how there's this intentional display of variety that's out there. What would you say, and maybe this is for you, Liz, since you've been on a little bit longer, what's your most favorite SSMT show that you've seen put on here or been a part of? And why?
Well, I'm not just saying this because he's next to me, but my favorite thus far, and it's a close favorite, but I loved the 2016 production of Pirates of Penzance because first of all, it's a very well written show, and this version is really fun. But like, it was just so much fun. You got to see guys being pirates and policemen and girl, like the whole. It is ridiculous and enjoys its own ridiculousness, and people were laughing the whole time. And I just thought it was a wonderful production, and it was big. It had lots of people in it. It was fun to watch. The scenery was beautiful. Like the whole thing, the whole package was great. And I think that was a good one. Yeah.
I loved that one. That was a fun one to work on. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah. Maybe we should do that again someday.
Yes, let's.
For me, I love the shows that make you laugh, make you cry. So things like Fiddler on the Roof that are very well known to audiences, that I as a director can put enough of my own stamp on that the audience gets what they were expecting, but it also subverts some of their expectations. Those are my favorite kind of things. So things like Fiddler on the Roof and any of our Golden Age shows that I know our audiences are in big support of. It
is interesting you say it because they're Golden Age and they've stood the test of time. And so they've stood the test of time for a reason because well-written, good music, good songs, good storyline, and that's what's going to draw people in as well. I'm biased. Because my son Tyson was in one, so Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins is your favorite.
Was very good.
Yes. We used the boys to see that when they were little. That was 2014,
2014. Yeah.
And because Tyson was in it, and I took them to see it, and it was just.
He was 12. Now he's out there doing his thing in New York. But so shout out to Tyson. Thank you.
Hi, Tyson.
But Fiddler on the Roof, I thought was amazing.
Thank you.
And that was last year.
That was just last year.
Yes.
So
sometimes it feels like a million years ago because these days go quickly once we're in rehearsal.
Exactly. Yeah. So give us the rundown of what happens now. We're about ready to hit the ground running.
When's the first show?
The ground has been hit.
Yes. Okay.
Several times. Yeah.
So because I don't think people realize when you go from one show to the next, there's just a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
So we start with our technical staff coming in a week before anybody else. So they got here and started work on June 4th. So they've been working 2 weeks now. The cast arrived last week, so they've had a week of rehearsals. You're almost finished blocking and choreographing the whole show?
That's correct. In 4 days, we have finished staging for Act 1. And all throughout today, we will be staging Act 2.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here in the midst of the chaos.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be.
Gets
me out of the room.
In the production wheel today.
But they're working on putting together, obviously, the set, the lighting, getting the sound ready, all of the costumes and everything. Everybody has fittings. We're working on rehearsals and things. And when we go into what we call Tech Week, which is where we start putting everything all together, that's when some of the technical team will start working on Little Women. They'll start building the next thing because they can't do anything with Singing in the Rain. It's on the stage. And then they'll come in and fix things while everybody else is on break and back and forth. So some of it is coordinating, okay, this team is going to be in this room for a while. And then when this team takes a break, then they're going to come over here and do these things. But we'll go pick up, orchestra rehearsals start this week for Singing in the Rain. So we have some people coming in on Wednesday tomorrow for rehearsals to start for that on Thursday. We have the cast for Little Women, because Singing in the Rain runs 3 weekends, we typically run one show a little bit longer. Because Singing in the Rain runs 3 weekends, the cast for Little Women doesn't arrive until after Singing in the Rain opens, but the cast for $1 Million Quartet will arrive as Little Women are in tech rehearsals. So you start one thing before the other thing is quite finished yet.
Which is why you need a team.
Correct.
You
A
need
large
team.
to juggle all of that. How do you guys get the word out? You just, because we want to be a part of that.
Sure.
Obviously, we'll be sharing this to all of our listening audience, but how far is your reach? And really, who would you declare as your target audience?
Our reach goes down, I would say maybe 90 miles in any direction.
Okay.
So we reach over towards DC in Northern Virginia. We reach down Harrisonburg, Stanton, up towards Hagerstown, Frederick, Maryland, maybe even a little farther. Berkeley Springs, some of Jefferson County. We get a lot of single patrons, but we also get a lot of groups that come to the shows. So they might have a retirement community or something, might charter a bus and bring everybody one day. So we get a lot of groups as well. We do a little bit of everything because that's what you got to do these days. So a little bit of print, a little bit of radio, a little bit of social media, kind of anything that will reach any kind of person. And they all are tailored a little bit to those audiences. So I don't know about you, but I don't listen to regular radio anymore. I'm only listening to streaming, So I'm interested in what's being advertised on a podcast or what's being advertised on streaming radio if I haven't paid to get rid of commercials and things, or I'm interested to see what's going to come across my social media. But my parents aren't listening to that and they aren't looking in those places. So somebody else is going to need a different touch point. So we just try and vary our reach.
And for us, the best way for us to continue to widen our reach is through word of mouth.
Right.
There's no better way to sell a theater ticket than through word of mouth, that people come from farther away. They had a wonderful experience, and then they tell their friends that we are definitely worth the drive. I mean, we also get people that come in the summers and will tell me things like, oh, I live in Maine, but I schedule my visits to my sister in Winchester every summer so that we can see all of your productions. So we do have, yes, we have fans from all over now. It's so lovely to hear.
There's theaters up in Maine too.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes, they have plenty of stuff they could see there.
Yeah.
So I know I'm going to cue you up a little bit, okay? So you can hit the home run. You have a closing line of your stand-up act of how the audience can be reached. Do you remember what it is?
No.
You say something like, make sure you tell a friend, and if they like the show.
If you like the show, tell a friend. If you don't like the show, tell an enemy.
There you go.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Speaking of other theaters and stuff, I mean, I'm sure you guys stay in touch with the current shows of the time. You mentioned Pirates because that was there in the Tonys.
Yes, it was. And there's a revival of it.
A revival of that. What have you seen lately that you're just like, oh, that was an amazing show?
There's so many things. I've been seeing lots of stuff in New York where I live during the rest of the year. I'm only in Virginia these 10 weeks a year. It's my favorite 10 weeks because I get to get out of the city, especially when it's hot and smelly. But there's been a lot of wonderful things this season. I would highly recommend, if you're in New York for a trip, maybe Happy Ending is a beautiful show. It's about 2 robots that are decommissioned and their batteries are dying, and what they're going to do with the rest of their days. So they decide to fall in love. It has the heart of a Pixar movie and the music of a Sondheim show with jazz influence. It's just gorgeous.
I would say that, you could say that was the top award-winning
show.
It was,
of the season. And deservedly so. Yeah. Also a lot of fun. You got to see Operation Mincemeat. You wanted to chat about that?
Yeah, that one was amazing. It's a cast of 5 people, and they play all the different roles regardless of gender. So everything is kind of swapped back and forth at all times. They put on a different hat. There's somebody different, but it's based on a true story of an actual operation during World War II from MI6. And so it's one of those this idea is so dumb and so ridiculous that it can't possibly work, but it's going to work. And so there was this operation to convince the Nazis of one thing, that the Allies were coming in the front door, but really they were coming in the back door. And
is this a movie?
It is a movie.
I feel like I've seen this movie.
And so it's based on that true story and kind of highlights some of the unsung heroes of that particular era. But the music is great.
And the story is
so great.
It is, and it's relentlessly silly.
It is relentlessly silly. Yeah. It was so much fun. And it has one of the most, like you were saying, like make them laugh, make them cry. It has one of the most touching scenes in the first act that you're sitting there grinning, and then all of a sudden you realize, like,
ugly crying
down my face. It's just
embarrassing myself in public again.
Exactly.
Well, I was able to get up there several months ago to see Sunset Boulevard.
Oh,
again.
That was another one, yeah.
And with that revival, what they did with the modernization of it, and the lighting and the screen on stage, and then obviously the performances were amazing too. But that would be a don't miss kind of show if you're
highly
up there
recommended.
At all. And it's not brand new. I love how you can still go back to old stuff and then kind of retune it, refresh it up just a little bit, and get a whole crowd of people and win awards.
Right.
So
and
it's
people
cool.
who I love when a show comes back around and a current generation will think they discovered it. Like it's oh my gosh, have you guys seen this show called Sunset Boulevard? And you're like,
yes,
yes,
30 years ago.
But it does make it new. It makes it exciting, and it makes it reach a different set of audience. And like Jeremy said, the best way for any theater or arts organization to get people in the seats are word of mouth. It's the way. Nobody wants to do something they have never heard of or don't know about, or maybe it makes them anxious or nervous. But if a friend says this was fun, you'll like it, go. It's a guarantee.
And it all comes back to the fact that it's affordable. Yeah. You can afford to take your family to go see one of these shows.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a deal breaker anymore for families. Like the cost and the fact that you can.
And it's close by. It's local.
Yep.
It's here. So if you live within a 90-mile radius, you're going to get an amazing
Yep.
show.
The price point is very important for us. We have the ability, and people say all the time, well, your budgets would all be fixed and on the level if you just charged what you were worth. And I refuse to allow us to raise our ticket prices to a point where we are no longer accessible to a family's budget. We are here for the community. So it remains very important to me that our entry point is accessible. To them.
Yep.
And if people are coming from outside or from that 90-mile radius, there's so much to do in Winchester or the surrounding areas.
There is now. There didn't used to be.
Correct.
We're getting there.
We knew. We knew it in the days of old.
I remember those days too.
But coming out and making a day of it, or coming out and like booking a night at the George Washington Historic Hotel.
Go to dinner, go to a show.
Go to the winery on your way back, and stay there until you're finished with all of your wine consumption.
Get your driver.
Yeah, get a driver. But there's so much to experience. And like Jeremy said about getting out of New York, like sometimes it's nice to get out of the city, or nice to get out of a high population area and just see some green rolling hills for a few hours, and it'll recharge you for the next week.
Yeah.
So,
if I didn't live here, I'm sold.
Yeah,
I would come do it. Yeah, but I'll do it anyway, even though I live here. Night out in the town, go see a show.
Absolutely.
Sounds amazing. Maybe I'll even stay at the George Washington Hotel.
That sounds like fun too.
Have you ever stayed there?
Sure. We did that for a birthday party for, believe it or not, Tyson.
Yeah.
We're like, what do you want to do? He's like, I want to swim at the pool at George Washington Hotel. Because he had seen it before. And I was like, well, you have to stay the night there. So we gave the boys their own suite. They watched Harry Potter movies all night long. We took them out to dinner, and we swam in the pool, and it was a great night.
How sweet.
So that was our birthday party.
Yeah. And just a little plug, but like if you call the George Washington and say that you're going to the show at SSMT, they'll give you a special rate.
Discount.
Oh, really?
So, there you go.
I took the boys to stay there. We pretended we were on vacation in our own hometown probably 5 or 6 years ago when they were little. And we spent one night at the George. We went and did the Civil War Museum on the walking mall, like stuff that I've seen in my whole life.
Be a tourist for the day.
We went to the Snow White Grill. We went out to dinner, and we stayed the night. And they swam, and we got in the hot tub. I walked by that hotel all the time, and I've always wanted to get in that beautiful pool.
Yeah.
And so we did.
Like
we checked out the next day and went home.
Refurbished, but kept to the old historic vibe of it.
It's really
cool.
Beautiful.
So give us the plug. Where do people go to get tickets?
Yes.
Where, I mean, give us the website, all the things.
Our website is ssmtva.org. So Shenandoah Summer Music Theater in Virginia.org. And you can purchase tickets there. You can look at the shows. You can see what we've got going on. We have, we actually do speaking of accessibility and affordability, I do want to highlight, we have a volunteer program. So you can volunteer to usher the show, which means you get to see the show for free. So if tickets are outside your budget, or you really want to teach your child about volunteerism or something, you can sign up to volunteer and then get to see the show for free. We also have a Behind the Curtain series. You want to talk about that?
Sure. Once before the opening of every show, I conduct a lecture where our audience is invited to learn a little bit more about the history and the context of the show that they are about to see, and then go on a backstage tour so that they can learn a little bit more about how it actually does function, see some of how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about our relaxed performance as well?
So for one show each summer, we do a relaxed performance. And what that is the theater environment is modified for really young theater goers or theater goers with sensory processing differences. So the lights are on halfway, and we don't sell every seat in the house. So maybe you can pick one if you need a little space between you and the person next to you, or if you need to move your body during the show, there's kind of an area in the theater where you can move around a little bit. We pay special attention to like sound effects and sounds and make sure there's nothing super jarring or super loud and scary. If there is something like for last year for The Wizard of Oz, before we started the performance, we brought several of the puppets and things on stage so that people could see them in regular light and meet the puppeteers so that it was not scary in the moment. And it's an amazing, I love it so much. It's the most wonderful, gratifying experience every time because somebody in there will never have another opportunity to see a show that same way.
Yeah.
Or you might be a mom with 2 little kids who can't really get out to see a show, or you're not anxious about your kids moving around or making noise. That's what they're there to do. They're there to enjoy it in their own way. It's not a silent performance in the audience. It's not dark. You can bring your snacks in. I mean, it's relaxed.
That's really, and you do this once for every show?
We do it once for one show. I wish that we had the time to do it for every, but we try and pick the family-friendly show and we add that extra performance in. So this one is on July 9th on Wednesday at 1:30. Those tickets are a flat rate. I think they're $15 and it is general admission. So you don't have to worry about like, I want to pick my seat. You just come in and find something that looks good to you.
And for a large majority of our audience that day, the children that come in, for a lot of them, it is the first show they have ever seen. So to watch them processing that and seeing the magic being created before their eyes, it's really special for us.
Yeah.
I love how that gives back to the community in a small way as well, of just engaging families or people who might not be accessible or have the access to see a show, to the arts, just exposing them to what it looks like. The behind the scenes thing is really cool as well.
Yep.
It's that I love how that just kind of brings the community together.
Yeah.
More than just, hey, we're here to put on a show. Come see our show. Let us take your money to see the show. There's interaction and engagement.
And speaking of interaction and engagement, we have an expanded concessions menu this year.
We're clapping for that. Plug in for that.
Yes.
Right.
I've been working for the past 2 years on an ABC license.
Nice.
So finally it has come through. So we've expanded our seating in the lobby. We've expanded our snack offerings. So it's if you get there 45 minutes early, there's the opportunity to sit and chat with your friends, make some friends. I'm guarantee if you buy a bottle of wine, you're going to make some friends. So,
and is this including or expanding food as well?
Yeah,
or
a little
just
bit
beverages?
of expansion in the food and snacks as well. Yeah.
Been talking about that for a while, haven't you? Of just kind of the lobby experience.
Yeah,
right?
the lobby experience.
Yeah.
And just, when you go to a show, are you able to get a drink? Are you able to, gosh, did I get dinner or not before the show? Am I able to find something that will fill that need? And, people come and they're like loading up 17 Twix bars. And I'm like, would you like something bigger? Like, are you okay?
Sandwich
Can I get you some cheese and crackers? Maybe a little bit more. So,
Well, the chocolate chip cookies are amazing. That's still a go-to.
100%. And shout out to Chef's Corner. They make our cookies and they're to die for. They're great.
Thank you guys for
That's
being here.
really cool.
Thank you.
This is amazing.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I mean, I would say come back all the time, but you guys are in the weeds right now.
We are. This was our lunch break. We have to go.
That's perfect. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. It's good to talk to you.
Well, they were fun.
Oh my gosh,
Right?
so much fun.
I had to have them here and have in
Oh,
this
yep.
moment when they are in the, as I said, weeds.
They
of-
took a break today. This was their lunch break to come
Yeah.
and hang out with us and talk about what they're doing and working on. And
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. And you guys really do need to go to at least one of each of the shows and watch Jeremy's act in the beginning.
he was so alive. He was a delight.
So what'd you learn? Let's ask that question of ourselves.
I don't know that I knew that that anyone in the community can audition.
I saw your eyes light up.
I got real excited
Come
about
on.
that. Something I'm going to chew on for the next year.
Gonna have to see and watch and see what the next 3 shows are
Yeah.
for next season and how it fits your schedule.
Yep. Let's see. What else did I learn? I actually remember her from years ago. I think we're about the same age. We paralleled each other in music singing competitions
Yep.
growing up. And
Yep.
so that was a funny little moment I
I
had
think
with
she
her.
beat you out.
I
and-
honestly don't remember.
She can definitely sing. too.
Oh yeah. But we were in the same, we kind of grew up doing the same kinds of things.
We should have planned some sort of like little quartet
No.
vocal ensemble that all
No.
4 of us could have done, you know?
All 4 of us.
Oh yeah, sure. We could have.
Yeah.
Could
It
have.
would have been something.
Would have been something. Yeah.
But yeah, let's see what else. Did
I
know?
learned that Jeremy still lives full time in New
Yes,
York.
Yes, and he comes here just for that 10 weeks. That was
News to me.
That's his favorite 10 weeks of the year.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that he came around 5-6 years ago, as he said, and he certainly has made a world of difference of how he's been able to really invigorate the town and the community, but also the creative component of it. I mean, I know Liz engages the town and community,
Yeah.
but what Jeremy brings is that artistic vibe and that New York City vibe
Yes.
to Winchester. So
Very fun.
it's cool. Yeah, definitely. Well, local events, final segment of the episode. What is happening around town? We obviously have to plug SSMT.
Obviously.
Right? So that kicks off. You heard what they said in a couple of weeks. So look out for that. Singing in the Rain is the first one. You can go to their website for all the local details. They do periodically, and we're not going to always advertise this. If it's a show that's very popular, they will add a show or two. So look out for the ones because they do sell out quick. And just keep going to the website to see what those details
And they
are.
said in the interview, but their price point starts at $26 a head.
amazing.
It's super affordable for your family.
Yeah. And then obviously support all the people who sponsor. Yours truly is one of them, but many others who support
Yeah.
the arts that keep them afloat. So that's one thing. The other thing I just like to highlight, and every now and then on Iconic Talk we talk about this, but specifically for the summer, there's guided history walking tours here of Old Town. So if you want that vibe, as you've talked about before, Rachel, of giving some sort of like local touristy
General
kind of flair,
history, yes.
you can go. It always kicks off and starts at our what I call the old Icon Real Estate Building. It's also known as the Kurtz Building, 2 North Cameron Street. It kicks off. It's $10 to go on a guided tour, and they do go through the spring all the way through the fall. But you can go check out the site that we'll put on the show notes. Click the link there, and you'll see the different days and times. But June 20th, so on Friday would be the next one. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. So if you're looking for something to do it's been so much rain lately. We're finally getting the sun.
Gosh.
Finally getting the sun this weekend. I'm excited about that.
Can't believe this weather.
So you can enjoy the pools and the warm weather, and next week will
Maybe
be super
vegetables
hot too.
will actually start to grow.
Maybe. Well, I mean, they're not getting
It's
drowned
brutal.
and
It's
flooded
brutal
out,
now.
right?
Yep.
But as always, though, it comes in seasons.
And we're not having to water.
Not having to pull up all of our air conditioning, and pay all those bills
That's
now.
true.
So
That's another silver
there's always
lining.
perks,
Yes,
right?
Yes, always perks.
well, Rachel, once again, so much fun to have you here with us. Kayla, we missed you. We'll see you next time. We've got more special guests lined up, so we'll keep them secret. We'll announce them on social media. Make sure you do tell your friends to find us, like us on social media. Now that we are on YouTube, look for those special highlights of the episode. Share them with your friends. Let them know that you can download all of our episodes anywhere you get your podcasts, but specifically subscribe. Just let us know
Yeah,
that
we're trying to get famous.
we want to be famous.
We're trying to get famous.
More famous than we are.
More famous than
Right?
I'm
Ugh.
more famous than you.
Says Spotlight.
But
yes, of course. Thanks to all the people who are behind the scenes making this work. Simeon Battaglia, you have put in 4 years of amazing effort. So thank you for all of what you've done. This is your last episode, so I want to give you a shout out. And also Tyson Francis, we've already talked about you, but you are now our social media expert. So appreciate it. And you know what? As you do give us your thoughts and questions, maybe you might be our next guest. So reach out to us and find us. So until next time,
think
iconic.